the
So we
thing.
got to check in with the group. If we agree we do, if they don't, we do.
Yes, that's what we should do.
Unless,
I have a justification for that. I'm not so in love with PowerPoint presentation, but the thing is, we always like to give you something that you could take with you. So the idea is that instead of giving you an article, what we give you is the PowerPoint presentation. So in the future, you just can go to that and review it, and even use it for your own trainings. So what we're going to do is that we're going to send this presentation by mail, so you're going to have it. The only thing we wanted to share with you about the methodology of public education is that in the beginning, during the 70s and 80s, this was the basic and logic of public education. Starting with practice, then theory, and then going back to practice to improve practice. That was the basic cycle. Actually, it's a spiral. And but nowadays it's more complex. It's more like what Becky did in her group. It's a lot more complex. It's the same thing. Just it's the same thing that Becky explained and used with her group. It's the same spiral, the same graphic. So it's just for think that we could even change this model. That's what this model was invented by this group of public educators from Canada, and they wrote this book. I have the book here, and it's a good book. At the end of the workshop, we're going to share with you some bibliography, some books that you can read, and also when we send you, we're going to send you the presentation and the pictures and links to participatory tools books that are in the internet. They are for free, and there are a lot of information, but one of the books that I'm going to send you the reference is this one. This book was written in 1991 and was written by this group of public educators from Toronto, Canada, and they created this cycle, this spiral. And it's been very useful. And I think 10 years later, they wrote another version of the same book, but oriented towards working with unions in Canada. And now they have introduced some other things that are on that graphic that we are sharing with you. But my point is, be creative. You could change that diagram as well in your practice. So if you think that that spiral is not working for your groups or your practice, change it and do something else. So it's just a model, and like any model, it tries to help the practice of educators, but it could be changed. It's not perfect, it's just a model. As public education is a method, it's an educational methodology that could evolve, it could change too. So that's why we wanted to share this. Something that I think it was, what? Oh, I'm sorry.
And the Educating for a Change book and Pedagogy of the Impressed, CPC has those in our library that are available for community folks to check out. So I don't know, there might be other books on the bibliography that we have too. So check with us if you want to borrow that book.
All right, good. So something that it was said in one of those groups, but I think we would like to stress is what Chavez calls the vertical logic of popular education and the horizontal logic. The horizontal is it's what everybody uses and everybody knows, is this logic of going horizontal, the time, content, procedure, resources, and responsible. For instance, the school teachers use that a lot for their class plans. It's very, this been used for years, decades. But public education introduced the other logic that is vertical. That is the one that we've been using and you used in your exercises, in your breakout groups. For showing it into an example, oops. So the horizontal logic is the hour, the content is in bold letters so that everybody knows what the topic is, the procedure, detailing the steps of that procedure of every section, and then the resources. And sometimes you could add the responsible of that section, but it's a horizontal logic. That's the traditional one. The one that was a new approach that was introduced by public education is research, education, and action. That is the one that you've been using in your designs. So always make sure that you have both logics in your designs.
So, Rebecca?
Yes.
Even if it's a flow chart like this, you have the color coding for the horizontal components of the design, which are the time, allocation, the topic, the activity, but you also have in black, this is what we're calling there the vertical logic. These three components are very clear on the flow chart.
All right. So this is another graphic that shows the vertical logic again and the horizontal logic. And you see, that's something that one of your groups did. That is setting up the topic and then the objectives. And once you have the objectives, so you can start working with the horizontal logic and then the vertical logic. But starting with the theme, the topic, and the objectives, that's really, really important. And this is something that this is the agenda for this workshop. So we specifically planned the workshop with those steps: research, education, action, and then research again in every section of the workshop. And that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you. So questions, comments about this horizontal and vertical logic? Do you think it's useful for your workshops? All right. So we are in the methodological dimension of public education. We have covered philosophy, a little bit of theory when we talked about traditional education and popular education. We were in the theoretical dimension, and now we've been working all day on the methodological dimension. And now Chava is going to go to the more concrete or specific about methodology, and those are the tools, the participatory tools. That, as we said yesterday that the participatory tools for many years were considered public education, that they are only part of the methodology, the most concrete part. But there is also more, the theory and philosophy.
Thank you, Rika. So we're not going to be focusing most of the workshop on this because I think that's where the knowledge of the group is. And but we will address a little bit of it for those who are incursionating, introducing themselves on the topic for the first time. So just quickly, a cuchicheo on three things. These sides of the cuchicheos are going to tell us what kind of tools there are. What kinds? Tell us a little bit of what kinds of tools there are. You would tell us what are some problems we find when implementing certain tools. You know, we choose, I don't know, the crosswalk or the piña and naranja interjection. What kind of problems we find when we choose some tools? And then you guys over here are going to tell us, they're going to share in your cuchicheos, what are some considerations you should take into account when deciding which tool is going to be the proper one. What are the considerations? What do you take in consideration, into account? Okay, so are the groups good? 3 equals of 3? Groups of 3? 3. You guys, I think you guys better 3 and 2, and then 2 and 3. Okay, so that way the language is easier. You want to meet together? So, what kinds of techniques or tools there are? ¿Qué tipos de ejercicios o herramientas participativas hay? What are the problems of using some tools? You know, what are the problems we face? And what do we have to take into account? What are the considerations we have to take into what do we have to take into consideration before this
Modeling activities that you do to, so that it's not.
It's just like understanding, making sure that everyone like understands the actual activity. Yeah, that people have different ideas about what
They're supposed to do.
what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, so like basic directions. I think choosing the wrong tool, I've done that before.
Can you say more about that?
But just, once you know a lot of tools and you think, okay, well this tool, you're sort of picking, and this is where I think,
I think they'll send a lot of stuff out. That's okay. But I guess something that people have mentioned before about some of the tools is that some of them can just be really disconnected from the theme of the entire workshop. And so, it might be that you choose a tool that's like that because you just want people to have a chance to get their mind off of heavy material that you're talking about. But whatever it is, you have to be intentional about where the tool fits in and why you're using it. So maybe the problems are more with the facilitators themselves. But I guess sometimes the problems work.
Actively learning each other's
Yeah.
being,
Yeah.
or if you're getting to an agenda, learning what is important to each person.
Yeah.
So that would be the other activity, the beginning of the friendship and kind of icebreaker of learning to trust each other, and establishing the trust would be the trust. You should that we can work together. And so I agree. Pretty much it depends on what we're trying to achieve.
Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say, I would. One of the things that I'm taking into consideration is who and then two of the participants. Who are they? And so, in addition to what are we trying to achieve, and what part of the spiral are we in, and what's important to each person. What would be important to each person is that we have to take into consideration who are the people, who are the participants, and then I think also it's important to take into consideration age, maybe not necessarily age, but how do you say it's different if you have a group of teenagers than if you have a group of 40-year-olds.
Policy clusters, we still have challenges in getting meetings. So we just don't have that anymore in communities. Yeah, like if we as a community think that would be a good investment to own space to where we can meet and organize.
Yeah, because the community centers, you actually, in order to hold a meeting, I think you got to rent the space to have a meeting at these so-called community centers.
You mean with Burton Street and Shiloh?
Yeah.
You would have to pay it $75 an hour to use their facility.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to hold a meeting, you would need to go to the center director and see if they would partner with you. Otherwise, if they, that's power. Otherwise, if they won't partner with you, then you go somewhere else.
Compartiendo la
una experiencia, ¿no?
Compartiendo experiencias
a través de los dibujos. Y luego compartir conocimientos a través de las tarjetitas, como cómo relacionar, cómo
compartir lo que conoces del tema. Okay. Y pues los cuchicheos son como para discutir y compartir en pequeños grupos, ¿no?
So let's start with the first question. What kinds of tools there are? A ver, ¿qué tipos de herramientas participativas hay que ustedes conocen? ¿Cuáles son la clasificación?
Bueno, dijimos que corporales, las que usas el cuerpo, visuales,
Okay.
por ejemplo, lo que hicimos con los dibujos, aparte de estás mostrando a los demás tu dibujo y explicando, o están usando la vista, al mismo tiempo estás explicando. Orales, los cuchicheos o cuando salimos y damos nuestro punto de vista. Otra que estábamos viendo con este ejercicio que hicimos de los pies es como reflectiva mental, ¿no? Usas...
Oh, lo de los footprints.
Sí, usas como que tu mente para ir al pasado, al presente y
proyectivas.
Exacto, y conectar con lo que estás haciendo aquí por ejemplo, hoy en este taller. Esas son las que vimos, si alguien quiere.
Muy bien. Ronald, ¿algo más que agregar o lo dijo todo Miriam?
Sí, lo dijo todo, porque agarramos las herramientas que usamos acá, pues, las de las manos, y otros lo que pusimos, los dibujos, los que expresamos nuestros sentimientos, nuestro coraje, nuestro logro y nuestros fracasos.
Sí, básicamente corporal, visual, reflectiva, con la mente y oral.
Ok, muy bien, muchas gracias. Algo diferente que no se haya dicho. ¿Cómo clasifican ustedes las herramientas participativas?
We did it a little different, so it's cool to hear how they did it. We talked about it in terms of kind of what they can accomplish. What they can accomplish.
Okay. So what the purpose of the tool is, right?
Yeah, so we broke it down into that there's icebreakers, analysis builders, planning and evaluation, activities, research, energizers, and decision making.
Great. So this classification is by the mode, like if they use the body, the eyes, the feelings, if they're visual or whatever. Your classification is more the purpose. What's the purpose of the tools? That's good. Okay. You guys didn't talk about it, so you can add. Nicole, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, okay. You're the notator. Thank you. Good. Anything else you want to add in terms of classifying types of participatory tools? How do you classify them? What kinds are there? When we say we're going to choose a tool, that's a what? That's a what tool?
I don't know, maybe I said it in the first group, but I think I had like kinetic or like movement.
Movement?
And acting.
Okay. So those are corporales. Miriam mentioned them. Son corporales.
And lists.
Say more.
I don't know, I just, when I think of popular education, I think of like a flip chart, like a heading, and then like you make a list.
Brainstorming. So the purpose there is a quick research. Brainstorming. How many brainstormings we've done in this workshop? That's a brainstorming. When we did it at the beginning, it was a kind of like a quick brainstorming of what you guys know. That's a brainstorming too, through cards. So
I was going to say dreaming too, along with
what?
That brainstorming, dreaming.
Can you say more?
Just like what would, even if it doesn't seem possible, like how do we envision this playing out, or what is our long-term goal? Even if racism is never going to end, but that we like a vision. I don't know, just dreaming, or what if immigration reform in the way that we want it to will never pass, but what would it look like if it did look like what we wanted it to look like?
Using our imagination, our
creativity,
projecting the future, a better future.
Using your mind to create the perfect world you want.
Right. Good. All right. Good. And the creativity is part of many of the tools because they have to be not rational but like metaphorical, right? Anything you want to add in terms of types of techniques or tools? Are we good? You guys agree? Okay, good. So, like Andrea said, there's different ways of classifying the tools. there's, like, depending on what part of the body we're using, which was the clasification you guys did, si usamos los ojos son visuales, si usamos el cuerpo son corporales, ¿verdad? And the other group over here classify them by the purpose, so it's another classification that is also taken into consideration. And sometimes we ask of a tool something they're not supposed to do. Like an energizer is not supposed to really bring us to the reflection level. Unless we use energizers that could break the ice, but at the same time are linked to the topic. That could also happen. But sometimes let's say piña and naranja, it's not a reflection tool. So you can never ask of piñas and naranjas an analysis from it, right? That would be pushing it, right? That would be asking of the tool something that is not going to be able to get.
Just answer.
Okay. So,
You talked about the history of fruit plantations and stuff. Owned by America.
You may, but that's pushing it too much. So there's 3 categories here too. So they're similar to the 2 groups over here. By the utility, which is what you said. Are they energizers? Do they break the ice? Do they help? I really like the first group said, we need to create a safe space. If you don't have a safe space, you cannot talk about leadership development and advices about leadership and all that. If you want to talk about that, you got to create a safe space. So energizers are great for creating a safe space and for bringing up the spirit, because sometimes after lunch, the spirit goes out, right? So energizers. The same with integration. To create safe space, you need to integrate the group. So people who know each other sit close to each other. Andrea is close to Becky, Becky is close to Alex, and whatever. But we're not breaking you guys up. So for instance, the piñas, naranjas over here, when we mixed you over there, it was a way to integrate the group. It's not people who are sitting next to each other who already know each other. So Miriam y Ronald están juntos, etc. Right? So integration. Tools for analysis. So those are, they take longer. Energizers are quick. Could be 5 minutes only, and that's it. Tools for integration also take sometimes 20 minutes, depending if it goes deeper. For instance, the footprints could go deeper. If the group is smaller, we may want to share why we walk on those footprints and the steps of those people that have inspired us in our liberation process. It takes longer, but it's very, very profound. And if you have a smaller group, you could do it. So depending on the time that you have. And then like Andrea's group said, if it's a research tool, if it's an organization tool, to understand your organization, your agency you're working with, etc. So depending on the purpose. Depending on the mode or the type of instrument we're using. Are we using audio? Is it a song? And then we're going to analyze the song. Is it a video? Is it a movie? We can actually do it from a movie clip, etc. And the type of group that we're using, or the type of people that are engaged. Is it an individual tool? So you do your own drawing, feeling powerless. It's my drawing, it's me going inward. And I do the exercise with my drawing. I have to do it to exercise the other part of my hemisphere that I usually don't use. It's an individual tool of reflection. But then there's others that are the group. Those are exercises that we did in groups, and the products are group collective production of knowledge. Or is it in pairs, just like what we did with the cuchicheos? The cuchicheos are great ways of using time effectively. So the classification. Anything about this? I think this is really known, so not a lot.
Entonces, acuerdos de cada organización sobre cómo van a poner en práctica. Solo en este momento ya solo vamos a leer, no vamos a reflexionar sobre eso, sino la idea es que cuando CPC, por ejemplo, CONA, comparta lo que van a hacer en su organización, las otras organizaciones están escuchando. Si escuchan algo que les parece muy original, que ellos pueden aplicar, lo copian. ¿Ven? La idea es ese intercambio de conocimiento. Sería una discusión, solo leer. Comencemos por aquí, de este lado. Did you read it? ¿Esa es? Ok.
Pensamos que tenemos. ¡Oh, wow! Todos son los educadores populares.
I'll pass.
Solo le voy a pedir que se pongan cerquita de Freire para que ustedes vean las cosas. Ok, cuéntenos entonces qué es lo que van a hacer.
Bueno, las primeras ideas que tuvimos fueron para Work Center, fueron 4 cosas, como 4 pilares que deben haber dentro de nuestra organización si queremos hacer uso de la práctica de educación popular. La primera es la preparación y capacitación continua. Creo que necesitamos tomar conciencia de la importancia de la educación popular y del compromiso de nuestros miembros para hacer de esto algo intencional. Entonces necesitamos una constante preparación. Y este taller y esta oportunidad nos ayuda a eso. Recolectar recursos, buscar con grupos, con otros compañeros, bibliografías existentes. Sabemos que Highlander también tiene muy buenos recursos, entonces creo que debe ser como la tarea para nosotros el buscar estos recursos. Y algo que nos gusta es que en cada actividad que desarrollamos para nuestros programas, siempre estamos creando cosas porque a veces no encontramos la dinámica o herramienta que realmente se acople a lo que queremos. Entonces, a veces creamos nuestros propios recursos y es importante, como nos decía Xavi, nos recomendaba documentar eso para poder compartirlos con nuestros compañeros entre programas y con cualquier otra persona que esté interesada. El compromiso de la práctica de educación popular en nuestro trabajo diario, en el sentido de que la práctica de educación popular en nuestros programas sea una práctica intencional y planificada. Creo que es importante, algo que mencionaba Jackie, si queremos que algo realmente funcione, necesitamos saber realmente lo que estamos haciendo y planificarlo de tal manera que vamos a poder guiar mejor al grupo. Y luego creemos que la evaluación es importante, evaluar en términos de ver la participación de nuestra comunidad, porque es lo que finalmente queremos con educación popular, hacer un proceso transformativo, un proceso de participación. Entonces necesitamos evaluar estos procesos, el impacto de la educación popular en las acciones que la comunidad está tomando para poder ver cómo realmente estamos ayudando en esto. Y esos son más o menos lo que consideramos.
Excelente. Sería tan bonito poder discutir sobre esto, ¿verdad? Y tener más tiempo, pero el tiempo es nuestro principal enemigo en los talleres de educación popular. Así que vamos a ir a este grupo de acá. ¿Qué fue lo que trabajaron por este lado? ¿Qué organización es? Porque vamos por organización. Entonces, ¿qué CPC enseñamos entonces?
Le pasan las notas después a Nicole para que nos ayude. Nicole, I'm sorry. Did Nicole help us take notes or send you can send the notes to Nicole?
Am I supposed to be taking notes right now?
Could you, or could someone else help us with the notes?
I'm sorry.
No, because that one we already made. That one we can take, but the rest of it. Can anyone help with note taking? You're right. I'm sorry. Anybody want to help with note taking?
Take a picture of what they just presented so Nicole doesn't have to take notes.
No, that's fine. I will take that. So the rest of the group did not have a visual, so can we have a volunteer who wants to take notes like Nicole that people
I can take that.
Okay, great.
Turnaround time.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go with CPC, please.
So we talked about several things, continuing our documentation that we've started, both of the work that we do with individual groups, and then documenting the tools to start creating the toolkit. We have already started a discussion about what's the next step, because we know that this workshop, we don't want this to be the only training that we have on popular education, but we want to continue the process always. So we'll be discussing as a staff, and hopefully with the peer network too, about what's the next workshop, or how will we continue to develop our training in popular education.
We want to maybe make a study circle to read Participatory press together with people in their region, chapter by chapter, and talk about it, because it's really heavy to try and get through on your own. So we want to do that. And then our coworker Tammy, who couldn't be here, will watch the video, and then we'll talk about stuff, how this workshop impacts our work, and where to go from there.
All right. Thank you. Great. Awesome. Awesome. All right. ¿Qué otra organización sigue? Todas. Ok. Vamos con todas entonces.
Nosotros lo dividimos como en dos partes, en nuestros talleres y en lo que es la parte interna. Entonces, creo que en la parte interna sería como implementarlo en las juntas de staff y las juntas con la mesa directiva, y que también todos estén familiarizados con la técnica. Creo que varios de los que están en nuestra mesa directiva saben de educación popular, entonces ahí va a ser más fácil. Otra cosa era hacer un sondeo del grupo al que se va uno a presentar. Eso es referente a los talleres, porque como bien puede ser en un lugar donde haya gente más conservadora, como dijo Chávez hace rato, que no me gusta que me toquen, o gente que está más familiarizada con, sí, está bien, puedo. Entonces, como hacer un pequeño sondeo de qué gente es la que te vas a ir a presentar. Crear un espacio donde todos se sientan libres de expresarse y...
Bueno, más que nada, también crear una agenda participativa basada en la educación popular, con los talleres que vamos a tomar a cabo, tener dinámicas de acuerdo al tema que se está tratando, y al último tener una evaluación de cómo la gente tomó el taller, qué les pareció, todo esto de educación popular, porque no creo que todos estén sepan o saben qué es la educación popular, y están a lo mejor acostumbrados a ver nada más vas tú y tú presentas, ¿no? Vas tú a un taller y tú nada más la persona presenta, en vez de que todos participan y sean parte de eso. Entonces sí.
Muy bien. Gracias, Cola. Y asegúrate que esté Alex Villanueva ahí para que le ponga salsa. Vamos con este grupo. ¿Qué organización es? ¿Nuestro centro?
Nuestro centro.
Right.
So we're kind of in a moment of strategic planning and rebuilding the organization, and we've already identified recently, with the help of Nick and Chevin, 3 areas of our work that we need to improve, and so we want to do listening sessions to bring community feedback about what it is that we should be doing and how we should be doing it. And so we just put the spiral here because it's going to take all of those steps. And then we were confused at first. We were like, it's like there's a big spiral, and then every step along the way is a spiral too. And we're like, popular education is taking over. This is too much. It's like a way of life now. But Chavez rescued us and was like, well, you don't have to. It's a lot to do in every step of the way, but what should always be part of it is reflexión y acción, reflection and action. So that like we do, we take action and then we reflect on it. We take action and we reflect on it. So anyway, we're going to be doing a lot of that. But we're going to do listening sessions, and it's hard to know who to do listening sessions for what purpose and what's the objective and how do we figure that out. And so we're going to take this model back to our board and say, how do we figure that out? And hopefully use
Our next meeting.
at our next meeting and use popular education to help us discover.
Yeah, just one more thing, and also probably with our committee, we're going to do like what we do here, share and let the other members of our committee teach us or share with everybody, like the knowledge that we have, like the nature knowledge. So plan.
Muy bien, excelente. Antes de terminar con el otro grupo, solo mencionar algo que dijo Jackie. Es verdad, la educación popular, uno se puede obsesionar y quizás complicarse la vida queriendo ponerle en todo, pero es verdad, dos cosas que dijiste es verdad. La primera, la educación popular sí puede llegar a ser una forma de vida, en las organizaciones sobre todo, y puede llegar a institucionalizarse, de forma tal que en la vida de la institución siempre esté presente una metodología de educación popular, no solo en los talleres, sino también en las reuniones del board o en las reuniones del staff, siempre partir de la gente, complementar con lo que sabemos y orientarnos a la práctica. O sea que, excelente. Vamos con el último grupo, que creo que eran ustedes, chicas, ¿no?
Our group was comprised of people who weren't in the same organization. So maybe I'll just like say what I said, and we can each share. I was thinking, because the way that my organization makes decisions is already like horizontal and collective, because we use consensus, that aspect of it may not really be changed, but I was thinking about the way that we as individuals bring proposals and things, and the way that we facilitate meetings, and that could comprise more of a pop-ed style of approach. And we already integrate it to a certain extent now when the person who's facilitating a meeting knows pop-ed tools, but I think now I'm in a position to like give them a debrief of this workshop and explain ways in which we could be bringing more of that into not really the decision-making space, but the steps that come before that. To be generating information as a group more than saying like, oh, you bring this information and then we all make a decision about it together.
Amy?
And I'm wearing two hats. I talked a lot about. I think this has been just a really profound weekend for me to think about. And particularly, I'm very action oriented, and I tend to lead my community into action, and trying to find ways to reflect in ways that are powerful and also disarming. There's a lot of people in our community that haven't had the opportunity to participate even in the traditional education system, and have a lot of shame around that, and so even going anywhere near that seems to be painful, and so figuring out ways to do reflection that's authentic for our community and to create, the one thing I said to my group that I got out this weekend is liberation, that everything goes back to that, and our work is often with people who are very much in survival mode. Folks that don't even sometimes seem to have time to care about their liberation, or they're just in despair, and addiction takes over, or whatever takes over, and so my other big question is like, what creates emergence? Where are those lines of emergence? And particularly for people in oppression, but I've also been thinking about folks in privilege, and how do you help them emerge? Because they don't even think they need to emerge, and where do those things sort of go together? Because I've seen a lot of places, even places that bring together people of privilege and people in oppression, and there's never a call for emergence. They can even sit in the same room at the same tables, but then they go back to the same exact lives that they have, and so there's never this call for transformation. So I have no idea is the answer to that question. These are just things that I guess taken back to my community, and beginning to have these kind of dialogues about sort of our work and what do we do. it
It's
feels
good.
like a back to the drawing board kind of moment.
That's great. Now you have another question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you probably didn't have before coming here. So.
But I'm also excited at the same time.
All right. Good. Nicole, we finished with Nicole.
And Tom too.
Tom, all right, sorry. Nicole? Or you are together?
So we have a large group of individuals. We actually split out
All
into
right.
two groups. So Julie, Amy, and Thomas were together.
All right.
Well, to begin with, I work with an organization that works to create cooperative businesses. And I'm giving a little workshop on what a cooperative is on Monday. And so I have been designing that workshop around what I've been learning this weekend. So I'm going to try that out right away. And then thinking in the bigger picture of how to use popular education techniques to work with people that want to start a cooperative business or join it or make decisions that needs strategic help. And cooperatives, it has always seemed to me to be an ideal approach to that. And I think in particular to kind of see how a cooperative counters a lot of the economic power dynamics in sort of mainstream business.
All right. So good luck with your workshop. And who else?
Yeah, so I took notes for our group, but so I'll just say what we have here, and then if y'all want to add.
We're not adding.
Oh, okay.
We are ready.
So what we talked about was that actually all of the different individual groups, we split out, but Just Economics, Thomas Beckett, Firestorm, Ethiopia, Ujama, who Calvin's representing, Women's Wellbeing Development Foundation, Bountiful Cities, we actually all work in the same spheres. We overlap so much. And the common undercurrent is that we're working on community building projects. We're working with community. That's the common theme. And so what we were talking about was then, how can we come together using popular education to work with community? How can that happen? How can we collaborate using popular education? So there were three different kinds of ideas. One was organizing an event to introduce popular education itself to the community. One was having an event to introduce popular education to other community organizers. One was using popular education in a community organizing event. So then that would be not really teaching the community about popular education, not really educating the community, but using the popular education methods to do something else, to focus on something else, like, for example, leadership development, or self-advocacy and empowerment, or building support systems, things like that. And then we also talked about how can we come together as organizations to build a collaborative structure in order to support community and then continue to plan and work together, so that it's not just how do we come together to plan an event, but how do we come together and create a system by which we continue to come together and use popular education within that system.
I knew that was going to happen. Free publicity again.
November 15th, not
you set that up. You invited Nicole to the funeral.
You know what? I have to say something about it because, well, when Andrea was talking about the continuation of this workshop with some other things related to popular education, I was thinking exactly about Nicole has said. That is, there's another thing that is similar and is like an extension of public education, that is participatory action research, and community development. And those other social, I would say, methodologies are very similar to popular education. Is not planning only an event, but a process, a social development process within the communities. But the methodology is similar, it's almost the same, but with some other things, like, for instance, particular research methodologies so that we would have tools for gathering what the people know about their reality. What Chávez was telling yesterday about the community assessments. In Latin America, those methodologies are very extended. They call them diagnósticos participativos, community assessments, because that's the first part of designing a strategy of community development. First, you must do that research in the community context, and for that, so you have to have tools, you have to have a plan, or how to conduct those assessments. And based on those outcomes, then there's another participatory workshop that is a participatory strategic or participatory planning workshop where the strategy is designed. And then the continuation, that is the implementation and the monitoring and evaluation that are also participatory using popular education tools. So it is something totally different and goes beyond planning and implementing a popular education workshop.
Yes,